Hello. Welcome to Beyond Film School, where I tell you all about the film industry. I'm Amber, and today we are talking about all the film departments, and I'm happily here to explain all of them. Sorry, I am a little bit late. Thank you, everyone who has joined the chat already. I know that you guys know that I was at my friend's little party last night, and I definitely was here. I had to drive like 2 hours to get back here to my lovely like streaming area, bedroom, home, all the things. Oh gosh, I want my window open because it's about to be like 70 degrees, and I hope that airplane is not that invasive to this live stream. So hello everybody, let me know in the chat that you are here with me. We're talking about all the film departments. Got my tea, I'm ready to go. Make sure my throat doesn't go. Say hello, how's everyone doing? And I had a bit of a technical difficulty a little bit starting out because I was trying to get my slide. I have a slideshow and everything for you. And this little slideshow, these images and stuff, is what I use in my Set PA training class to kind of go over my film department with the trainees. So you're getting some quality stuff here. I even have like my little printout that I use for my Set PAs that I train. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about all the departments because when I did the poll on my community tab, I was actually kind of like, hey, Saeed from Colorado, happy to have you. Silent Shred, I hope you are here. Candace, I hope you're still here. Delia09, I hope you're still here. Jack, hello again. So I'm happy that everyone's here. And Andrew is back. Hello, hello, hello. So, yeah, so I was kind of surprised the poll that I did. I was like, let's just put this as an option. Maybe people want to learn about the film departments on set. And I kind of was surprised that it got like 55% or something crazy like that. So I was really, really surprised. I was just like, wow. I mean, sometimes when I overthink like what type of topics I'm going to cover in the live stream, I'm like, let's go simple. And sometimes simple always wins. And I'm like, wow. Hello, Aiden. Hello. Okay. So as always, you guys can join the chat. If you have any questions, I welcome all the questions. And yeah, we're going to go department by department. We are not going to get into like post-production. We are talking about on-set departments because that's my realm. That's my world. This is what I thrive in. I know everything about on-set things. And I mean, I know about some post things, but I don't really care to go into that because we'd be here forever. Forever. Okay. So let's get to it. I love this photo so much. I love it so much. So we're going to talk about, I don't really have a slide for production, right? So production technically is its own department. These are your producers, your production coordinator, your line producer, your UPM are kind of like their production, right? Some people like to lump in the assistant directors into the production department. I mean, we can sometimes if there's no representative from the office or the UPM's not around or like production coordinators not around. This is something that we kind of consider ourselves. If there's no one representing production, ADs are kind of like default kind of considered production, but we're not because the ADs we're a separate department. We are a separate department. Look at these PAs and ADs. So everyone in the AD department, first AD, second AD, second, additional second AD, all the ADs. UPM also is kind of considered in the AD department because the UPM is the boss of all the ADs, right? UPM being the unit production manager. Okay, UPM, unit production manager. Let me bring up I want to view this chat really quick. I don't want to make sure I'm missing anyone's questions. Okay, so AD department is its own department. A lot of people don't think so, but it definitely is. All of our set PAs are falling under the assistant director department. Any questions about our AD department? The lovely AD department. I put them first because we have the handle on all the other departments. We got our fingers in every mixing bowl, okay? Yeah, so your set PAs, your key PA, first team PA, We got background PA, walkie PA, additional day player PA. These all fall under the assistant director department. So on top of that, we gotta talk about camera, of course. Our camera department, the camera department is the camera department. Like, these are the people who are handling the cameras. This is your director of photography, kind of the head honcho of this department, but the director of photography is also kind of the head honcho of the grip department and the electric department as well. So camera department is one's handling the media, they're handling cameras. They, if there is a special, like a drone shot that kind of is in the camera department, but also you usually hire someone special to operate the drone if there is a drone. And if there is, for example, some people want to know about crane operators, there's a separate, there's a whole separate team to operate the crane. But then as soon as you put the camera on the crane, then it also becomes like part of the camera department for obvious reasons, because anything dealing with the camera is going to deal with the camera department. So positions in the camera department, like I said before, director of photography, your camera operators, your first assistant camera, which is going to be your focus puller. Most of the time, your first ACs are kind of like, sometimes they could be the team leaders, sometimes they could not be. It depends on the team, and it's kind of weird. You can never really find the key or the head of the department, kind of, because within camera, like, someone's handling like the paperwork and hiring the team, and it's not usually the DP. So camera department is gonna be, your director of photography, camera operator, first assistant camera, and your second assistant camera. And then on below that is gonna be your loader. And the loader is kind of like your entry level camera department spot where they're handling all the media, they're switching cards, they're switching batteries, they're making sure the camera is ready to go. They're, all of these things, all of the little adjustments that you see in this picture here, there's someone making sure that's all set up properly. And like, people get the video feed, and sound has a video feed, and like, we'll talk about the video department. There's like a video assist department, and then there's like a video department. That gets kind of complicated, to be quite honest. Everyone's like, who, what, like, how is this getting, it gets very, very confusing. So camera department, if anyone is interested in getting in the camera department, you would start, sometimes they have camera PAs, not a lot of the times, but usually you get a few credits in the indie world, then you start like jumping into union world as a loader, and then you're a loader for a few years, then you kind of like, you start like maybe filling in now and then as a second AC, and then you start jumping in as a staff second AC, and then you stay there for a couple years, and maybe you like start dipping into, focus pulling, and it kind of like you're going up the ladder. All right, so next we got our grip department. I love this photo, and it's like one of my favorite things to do on set is watching the grip team, watching these amazing people set up that track, set up some crazy like wood platform to make sure the camera is stable. So your grip department is the team that is going to make sure there's support for the camera, right? There is, they are shaping the lights that are put up by the electric department. So our grip team, love those guys. Usually it's kind of funny, like it can go either way, where like the grip team is usually like the most grumpy, most difficult team, or they're the most fun. So it's like, there's never like a mediocre like vibe to the grip department, which is kind of really, really cool for me, because I'm like, you know what, I'm kind of dramatic. I love the extremes. So the grip department is going to be the people who are shaping the light. They got flags, they got scrims, they got like, they got a whole bunch of stuff. They're like, putting up, the duvetine when you have to black out a whole like big giant window area for an apartment building. Maybe you were shooting like day for night. So the grip team is like really making sure that the camera is supported. And like the dollies, all the things that the camera goes on, the grip team is kind of responsible for. So you usually see a lot of wood happening, like you see the wedges in the picture. And you got a lot of apple boxes, different size apple boxes and all that stuff. That is the grip department. And this is where it gets kind of confusing, because apple boxes are also had by the props department. So it gets kind of weird. So when your first AD asks for an apple box, you usually need to know what the apple box is for, because is it for the camera operator? Is it for, maybe the key grip needs an apple box to set really quick? Or is it for an actor to stand on or sit on? Because if it's for the actor, then the props department will be bringing that apple box. It gets kind of confusing, but when you're on set more and more, this is something you really definitely get used to. Okay, our grip department, love these people, love watching them set up all this, like, I just love watching them set up, like, massive, just set up, like, I just love watching, like, put up, like, huge screens, amazing what they do. All right, now we got our electric department. Electrics, now, the one thing I want you to remember about the electric department is there are two things. They are lighting, of course. They are lighting the scene, making sure that the scene is lit for the director of photography, but they are also power. They bring power to the set. Without them, Crafty ain't got no coffee. That dolly that has to be charged has no power. It ain't moving. Like, without the electric department, base camp is not going to be lit. It's not going to be, those trailers are not going to be warm because, there is some Jenny power that the Teamsters can use for base camp, but, like, then it gets hooked up to Jenny power. So, electric department, all about the power. Okay, so, and how do you identify the electrics department? Lighting, lots of cables, lots of lights, lots of cables. That's usually what I try and point out to my set PA trainees when they're like, when you're new to set, it gets really kind of overwhelming. And I'm like, you see a lot of wood, grip departments. You see a lot of cables and lights, that is going to be electric. Really good way to decipher between those two departments, because you look at the people, you look at the grips, you look at the electrics, they're like, they look exactly the same to me. So it can get kind of like, how do I decipher who is who? So a good way to, like, kind of notice who is like, usually a grip has a measuring tape on their belt or in their pocket or they're in their hand, and then the electrics are going to have, like, those little plugs. I don't remember what they are called, but they are kind of like where you can plug a two prong outlet into, like, a 3, and if someone knows the name of this thing, I'm very horrible with I know what it looks like. I can describe it to an electrician if I need it on set, and they're like, oh yeah, this thing, and I literally always forget what it's called. But if they have that on their belt, and usually a lot of electrics, they have gloves because they're handling the hot lights, because all the lights that we use are not all LED. LED lights are not going to get as hot as some of the traditional lighting, like the tungsten lighting. They get really, really hot. So they always have, like, gloves on them so they don't burn their hands when they're, like, adjusting, like, the barn doors on the lights. So good way to decipher between the electrics and the grips. Lots of wood versus lots of cable and lighting. And then, like, the grips usually have a measuring tape. And then, electrics usually have, like, the gloves. All right, so we got our props department. So this is really funny. This is props, and you're like, this looks very, very, very plain and simple. But, like, all of those things were used by actors. It was when I did a commercial, and it was like, it was a really, really fun commercial. First of all, it was very, very funny, but it was kind of like this, almost like an AA meeting, but it was like a media company, how, like, you're setting up, like, all this media, and it's like too many wires, too many things. It's very, very overwhelming. And so they go over to the table and they have, like, coffee and donuts. They're talking about this, the ridiculousness of, like, connecting media and how the wires that it takes and stuff. But props department is everything that an actor touches. So, and a lot of people get set dressing and props, which set dressing is going to be next. Set dressing and props kind of get a little mixed up a lot. Some people mistake them for each other. So if an actor is, like, using this chapstick, if it's in my hand, this is a prop. The chair that I'm sitting on would be set dressing, right? So the chair that I'm sitting on, or, like, the bed behind me and the shelf behind me, like, over here, the shelf, that would be, like, an actor doesn't really touch this, but if I needed to move something, set dresser would be like, oh, let's move, this picture, let's move that, like, that would be set dressing, whereas, like, my coffee cup and my chapstick, this is, I pretend I'm the actress, right, or I'm the actor, and, like, I'm moving these things in my hand, that is now a prop. If an actor touches it, moves it, then it's going to be a prop. If it's, like, on the wall, if it's a piece of furniture, then it becomes set dressing. And sometimes, they do intertwine a lot. Say no to sugar. Sorry, in the chat now. Okay, so props, anything an actor touches, and also like if an actor needs to be, maybe they're sitting down, but for camera they need to be boosted up a little bit. Maybe we need like a half apple for them to sit on. Then that half apple comes from props and not grips. But sometimes if the grips are closer, sometimes they beat props to it, and maybe props is out of it. Maybe they didn't bring it out of their truck and they didn't bring it to set. Then grips can totally save the day with an apple box that an actor needs. All right, moving on to set dressing. This is when I was down in Atlanta. For this picture, the scene is taking place on that green bench that you see, right? So the thing that the set dresser on the ladder, his name was Terry, he was amazing. I worked with him in Atlanta. It was great. He was an amazing person. And usually there's not a lot of set dressers, like maybe 2 set dressers on set, probably at the most. Like maybe sometimes there's 1, but most likely there's 2 on set. Unless you're doing some indie work where it's like you have like 1 person for like all of the art props and set dressing, which is like a nightmare for that person. A lot of work. So because the scene took place on that green hanging bench there, the height of that bench definitely fell on set dressing. So like depending on how camera was positioned, they had to kind of adjust the height of that bench. And then like that whole porch becomes like the set at one point. So like that porch is all set dressing. So set dressing is kind of like the surrounding the set around where the scene is taking place. This is another one that people really, really get kind of confused, the scenic department. I don't know if anyone knows about the scenic department. They are like the magicians as far as I'm concerned. Give me a shout in the comments, in the chat, if you know about the scenic department. If you don't, let me know, because some people are like, what is the scenic department? So the scenic department is like, you see in this picture, it looks like a brick wall, but obviously this is not real brick, right? They are preparing this lovely big block of foam to look like a brick wall. And it's quite amazing because they create things that look real but aren't. And scenic, they're definitely like, they're artists. They really make the magic happen when it comes to set, because they are tricking the camera, they are tricking the audience into thinking this is like some real thing, and it's definitely not real at all. That's great. So, like, you guys are telling me, like, you have, like, no idea what's happening. Like, Scenic Artists are amazing. They actually have I believe they're 897, local 897 up in the New York area. So, the Scenic is their own department, and they have their own, they don't fall under Local 52 in New York. They have their own, chapter of IATSE. And they have an apprenticeship where you can do an apprentice with them for 3 years, and you'll get paid, I think, I believe it's $22, $23 an hour. But Scenic Artists, when they start working on set, it's they make crazy money. The Scenic Artist on set usually makes $78 to $81 an hour in New York. I don't know what it is in other places in the States, but then you also have a huge team of scenic artists that are doing all of this behind the scenes work that you see on the screen right here. They're creating all of these crazy sets sometimes, and also they're the ones that also put the decals on the windows. For example, you're going to an FBI building in the scene, they're putting the logo of FBI either on the doors, or the offset scenic artists are maybe they have something on the floor that has to go on the floor. Very, very cool stuff what they do. Also, another thing, if anyone watches New Amsterdam, or maybe you might see a lot of kid drawings. Who do you think's doing the kid drawings? The scenic artists on set are doing the kid drawings that you see. Maybe in a movie, the teenager has this really cool journal or scrapbook. The scenic artists, they make those things, which is so cool. When I see them actually, they might need something really quick, and they'll just draw something up. They are amazing visual artists. I cannot say enough about the scenic department. They are amazing at what they do. Utterly amazing. So good. All right, so next we got our lovely one of my favorite departments, the sound department. They are the ones that are capturing the sound of the movie, TV show, whatever we're shooting. They're getting the dialogue. They're also getting some wild sounds, some wild lines. They are not Foley artists. Those are the behind the scenes. If you guys don't know what Foley artists are, please let me know in the chat. I will explain what a Foley artist is. But the sound department, they're responsible for getting the wires on the actors and making sure that they get nice, crisp sound. They're half the movie, like I said in my other live stream. Like, sound department, they are literally half the movie. Or half the TV show, or whatever, because you can have all the pretty pictures you want, and all the pretty visuals all you want, but if it doesn't sound good, ain't nobody gonna watch. Like, just remember that. For all, like, people who are, like, making their own stuff happen, trust me on this, sound is very, very department. So what you see in the picture is, like, you got a lot of different options for wires, and then you have, like, the mixing cart right next to it, so you can see, like, what goes into the sound department. So yes, sound, Saeed, yes, sound all the way. Sorry, I'm all about sound. Love the sound department. They're really usually good folks. I love the people who are in the sound department. They're never boring type people. They have, like, some characters in sound, and they're, like, one of my, like, favorite departments, favorite people, love sound. So, moving on to our script supervisor department. Now, you're like, script supervisor department, what? So yes, they are their own department. If you guys didn't know, they don't belong to any other department. They are a one-man army, one-woman army. They're doing a lot. And if you want to know more about the script supervisor, I definitely have a video. Look up script supervisor. My video is definitely going to pop up to learn all about what the script supervisor does. They are taking notes about what every camera, what every angle we've gotten, what every camera has gotten, how much of the scene have we gotten, what angles we got, is the eye line right, are the actors saying their lines right, like, does this match, if they start to improv, does this match their character, does this fall in line with the story that we got. They got everything. They know what lenses we shot on, they know, like, also what type of, what are we labeling this scene. They get with camera, they get with sound, and they make sure that everything's labeled properly, because when it gets to the editor, it's not like a hot mess, so your script supervisor, a lot of people, when they're doing, like, indie stuff, when you're doing indie shooting, guerrilla shooting, and you're trying to shoot on a shoestring budget, no budget, people are always like, no, let's just nix the script supervisor. You will kick yourself, like, as soon as you get to post, because you're going to be like, why didn't I have a script supervisor? Someone who's, like, taking notes, keeping track, and making sure that things are labeled properly will make your post-production process go so much smoother. And the script supervisor is very, very important on set. Very, very, very important. I cannot stress this enough. For my aspiring script supervisors out there, if you are trying to start out, offer your help. Offer to do, like, that day for free and be like, because if you offer up your help and the producer that hired you or the director that's working with you, they're going to thank you. If you're really good at what you do, they're going to thank you when they get to post-production. They're going to be like, oh my God, you've saved us. Because also they're keeping track of, like, what the director likes, what take really worked. They're keeping track of, like, what worked, what didn't, in what take. So, and they're making sure that we actually get the whole scene. And one of the things I love as a first AD when I'm working with my script supervisor is, when I do my breakdown, when I do my one-line schedule, I will double check with a script supervisor and be like, hey, just check my work. Like, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any scenes. Take a look at my one-liner. If I'm missing anything, please let me know. If you see something, it's really, really good to have another pair of eyes. And also, like, I love when I can talk to the script supervisor when I'm getting, like, 3 weeks in out of 4 weeks of shooting. I'll be like, what scenes don't we have? What do we got in the can? What don't we have? So I make sure that, like, if we might have missed something or pushed something to another day, it was on the call sheet, it was on the schedule, but then we had to switch something around. I want to make sure that we don't miss it and we get the scenes that we get. Like, they're responsible for kind of, like, getting the whole episode, getting the whole project, making sure everything that we need to shoot is shot. Okay, so they're super, super important. I cannot stress this enough. Oh, okay, so let's see what Jack. So Jack, I'm covering for a script supervisor on an indie at the moment, and girl, I can't deal. It is very, very hard for my aspiring ADs out there. I have definitely been in this position where people will hire you as an AD and expect you to kind of fill in as a script supervisor. It is a nightmare. And anytime someone does this to me or did this to me when I was first starting out, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take notes. And I was like, soon realized I can't be a proper first on something big and be a proper script supervisor. I'm going to take the most jankiest notes you've ever seen in your life if you expect me to like run your set and take notes. Super, super tough. So Jack, I definitely fear for you. Like, it's hard. It definitely, man, it's very, very tough trying to do like two people's jobs at once, especially if you're a script supervisor and there's like 2 or 3 cameras. Like, it's crazy. It's really, really crazy. And like, it's another thing that's like kind of coming up now in the script supervisor world where they're talking about, you know, where they have 6 cameras, right? And there's one script supervisor, where it's like, how much work do you expect one person to keep track of? You know, 6 cameras is a lot. Like, they're adding more and more cameras, but then they're not adding more and more script supervisors to kind of like deal with the weight of what's happening on set. It would be something. I would be quite surprised to see, you know, maybe there's 2 script supervisors. I would be like, whoa. But you would divide up the work, be like, okay, A, B, and C camera are going to be with script supervisor A, and then let's see, D, E, and F are gonna be with this script supervisor. So it would be interesting, but they're definitely trying to like rally for something like that to make sure that like you're gonna miss something. And also it makes you look bad when you like you get your notes to the editor and they're like, this is missing, that is missing, you know, why did this miss? Well, because there were 6 cameras and I can't be in 6 places at once, you know. So like keeping that in mind, like when you're hiring people, keep in mind the workload that you're giving folks. Like, I know some people who are like aspiring producers are like, I don't care, we just gotta make the movie for the least amount of money, which I know is true. Just keep that in mind. It's a real thing. The workload is real, okay? So we got, our next department is gonna be hair. I love this photo because I was working on a basketball movie and dude, homie was tall, and then our hair artist, our hairstylist was like, she maybe like 5 foot something. Like, she was 5 feet, I think 5 feet. And like, we had last looks, and she was like, you know what, I gotta get there, and you know, no one is stopping me from like getting his hair right. She hopped on that chair and she did it. So a common mistake is the hair department and the makeup department kind of get lumped into one department, and it's like, nothing is like farthest from the truth. Like, they are 2 different departments, unless you're dealing with indie where you have like maybe just 2 actors where like one makeup artist, hairstylist does both things, right? They're doing the hair and makeup if it's small enough. But, you know, in the union world, in the big budget, like where like unions are in place, hair department is very, very separate from the makeup department. So just know that. And a lot of people mistake them for each other. It's like making sure that you know who does what is very, very important. So hair department, makeup department are very, very separate. A lot of new people entering on like union sets make that mistake all the time, because I mean, I know as an indie first AD, it's like, I know that like sometimes there's one hair and makeup artist where like they're doing all the things and they're doing it by themselves. So I understand that, but like just know union world, definitely separate departments, even though you're working in the indie world and it's like one person doing all things. And sometimes in indie world, you won't even have a hair and makeup artist. You'll have like just the actors do their own hair and makeup, which is also an option if they're, you know, good enough at it. You're trying to save some money. All right, so obviously next we're going to do the makeup department. This is a friend of mine, Jill. She had the best makeup setups. I was always obsessed. So like, you always make it look very, very pretty. I was like, this picture right here is just a work of art as far as I'm concerned. They are going to be the people who are doing the actor's makeup. They also deal with like blood on an actor. If it's like maybe a post-fight, maybe you're doing a stunt and they get like hit in like the nose or the mouth, and they have like a drop of blood. The drop of blood is going to be the makeup department. And then there's like special effects makeup where you get like, maybe homie is a reptile, maybe like someone's an alien, or maybe there's like, a perfect example is the reshoots I did a few weeks ago, where, you know, it involved pregnant bellies, right? So there's like a pregnant belly where the clothes will be over it, which falls under wardrobe. Now, if you show the belly, it becomes makeup. And then the thing, they're cutting into the belly and blood's coming out, well, then that's special effects makeup. So it's like, different types of things call for different types of departments, and it always involve like, what are we seeing? Because depending on what the camera saw, then it kind of like it got into like, what department is this involving? So if it was just under their clothes and we didn't see like flesh, then it was like, okay, wardrobe, it's just the fake belly, nothing, no bells and whistles, it's just like a bump, right? And then you have, if it's flesh colored, you have the makeup department, and then if it's like you're cutting into it, blood's coming out, then it's special effects makeup. It's a whole thing. Very, very complicated. But, you know, once you're doing it for a while, you're like, you start to like realize like what department is handling this thing. And the ADs always have to like wrap their head around this all the time, making sure that like they know, you know, what responsibilities fall under what department. Like, that's part of the AD's job. So all my aspiring ADs out there, making sure, you got to make sure that you know what each department does. You want to ask for the right people when you're on set. You don't look like a fool. So moving on to our wardrobe department, they're responsible for like what the actors wear, what our background actors wear, you know, what is being seen on screen costume-wise. They are also in charge of like rings, accessories, purses, bags. They're like watches is a big thing. So glasses, you know, this would fall under costumes. And sometimes maybe someone's book bag. Maybe we're shooting like a school scene and all the kids have book bags. Well, sometimes props will have those book bags. Like, and for example, all of these, our HRT guys in this photo, they had like these Kevlar vests, then they had these like belts with lots of like equipment, like the little like things on the belt. I don't know what's actually in them in real life, but like the belts and the vests and like the helmets would come from props. So it's a whole thing. So like, and sometimes the helmets would be in the wardrobe department. So it's like sometimes the like departments definitely have to work together to figure out, you know, who's who and what, like who's taking care of it. And sometimes it always takes, the AD will be like, hey, let's get this department together and this department together. Who's handling this? And then we have like a conversation to make sure like we are like understanding who is doing what. So like sometimes definitely like departments definitely intervene, like they cross over. So then we have our transportation department. And if there's one thing I want you to learn from me is do not mess with the Teamsters. Your life is going to become very difficult if you mess with the Teamsters. You do not want to do that. Just letting you know. Life lesson here. Don't mess with the Teamsters. They're your friends, folks. If the trucks don't move, nothing gets shot, okay? I want you to remember this because the trucks are what gets all the equipment. It gets all the people where they need to be. And if the trucks aren't there, nothing is going to get shot, okay? Nothing. Because all the gear is in the trucks, right? And if trucks don't move to release the gear, then there's nothing going to be brought into that location. There's nothing. So a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it starts with the locations department because if you don't have a location, you ain't got nowhere to shoot. But if you can't get to the location, you're done. Like, plain and simple. Your transportation are like, they're driving the trailers, the campers, they're driving like the equipment trucks, they are driving your vans, they have like anyone who might be driving the director or an actor, those are your Teamsters. Now, when you're doing indie stuff, they hire PAs to drive people around, and it's like, ugh, but, you know, if it's not a union show, they can do that. They can have anyone they want drive anybody around or whatever. And I think it's kind of crazy that they pay like a minimum wage for a person who's going to be driving the cube truck with all the equipment in it. And I'm like, pay that person just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. You know what I mean? Just pay people who are responsible for a truck, like, and getting all your equipment. Like, yes, you might be insured, but like, let's just pay a person just slightly more if they're like driving your equipment around. Just saying. So just know, transportation department on union sets, don't want to mess with them. And if they're your friends, they make your life so much sweeter. Man, I will never forget talking to the co-captain down south when I worked in Atlanta. Could have swore homie hated me. I was like, because I was a key PA at the time, so I was talking to the Teamsters all the time because I'm the one who's like basically not like kind of like coordinating what trucks need to go where, you know, can the vans come down this road? Are they seeing the road? That thing. Like, I make sure the transpo knows what's going on as a key PA. And I really thought homie hated me. Then week goes by, Monday morning hits, we're on set, and then he was like, hey, Amber, good morning. Do you want any coffee? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, he knows he's very being nice to me. And it was kind of weird because they were like, give me that weird, like, let's feel her out and let's see where it goes. And then for whatever reason, I gained their respect, and then it was cake from then on. It was when they're on your side, everything gets so much easier for you when you're like doing union stuff and you're working with the Teamsters. So much easier when you get along. I mean, I don't want to talk shit, but like there are some PAs that if you are nasty and you are rude and you're just a plain asshole to the Teamsters, they're not going to do you any favors. They will leave you right in the dust. They will not have you in their van. They will be like, oh, I'm sorry, you're stranded. They'll be like, oh, I didn't see her. I didn't see him. They'll just forget about you. Oh, you're in Yonkers and you need to ride back into the city. Sorry. Like, honestly, you do not want to be on their bad side. Trust me on this. Trust me. So, moving on to our locations department. I love this photo because it's like, how else do I emphasize the locations department besides like they have all the keys. They have the keys to the kingdom. Like, they know the owners, they know what they can do, what we can get away with, how they can schmooze people a little bit, and it's they know where the bathrooms are. Like, they know what can and cannot be done, and they are kind of like, I don't want to say, like, when I have a question when it comes to like what we can shoot and where we can go, I always defer to the locations department. Like, hey, what are we allowed to do? Are we even allowed to be here? Like, are we about to get kicked out? Because that's the last thing you want as an AD, is to be kicked out of your set. And like and as a producer, you're like, oh, if we get kicked out, we have nowhere to shoot. Well, we just wasted a whole day because we were paying your crew day rates. If you can't shoot anything, it's a lot of waste of money. You're wasting a ton of money when it comes to like when you lose a location, or like maybe you get a location and the owners of the location weren't really expecting, the things to be brought in. Like, because we really come and we take over. Like, when our equipment comes in that building or in that location or whatever, we like take over. And a lot of people are not expecting that. For like these people who are first time, like, oh yeah, you can shoot in my house. As a person who works in film, do you think I'm gonna let people shoot in my house? No. No. As someone who works in film, I'm always like, will not do it, not doing it, definitely not. I don't care how much money you pay me. Sorry, definitely not gonna let you shoot in my house, my apartment, my bathroom, my closet, nothing. Nothing. So things can get broken, your floors can get ruined, and if I were to go back up to set dressing, it's kind of funny because, I'm going to definitely go back up to set dressing for a second, because I just want you to look at the landscaping. Let's look at the landscaping for this. Now, this is a real person's home, and we shot there for like 8 days or whatever crazy long. It was like 10 days or something crazy. We were there forever at this house. The landscaping was not what it was in this photo before we got there. Like, the greens department, which is not on this set, I did not put it on the list because it's not very, the greens department was very common on this movie, but sometimes you won't have a greens department on your movie if you're on certain things. So this is lovely landscaping, and it did not exist, but when we left, they got to keep all their yard around the house landscaped the way we had it, because they're like, yeah, we want it this way, sure. So thousands and thousands of dollars went into like landscaping the side and all the way around this house that the owners didn't pay for, but they benefited from us being there because now they had some bomb ass landscaping to their house. So thinking about that, it's like sometimes it might do you some good, because we put the property value just doing all that landscaping that was not there. Like, we probably saved them thousands of dollars, like 100%. So locations, people ask me what department has the worst on set. I always say locations department or the Teamsters, because Teamsters have horrible hours, right? But in locations, they're dealing with the people on the ground. Like, they're dealing with the owners who have problems. They're always the ones to do like conflict resolution. If someone's upset, they're handling it, If you have a disgruntled like pedestrian, and the PAs can't do anything about it, then they gotta call police, they gotta like talk to the neighbor, they gotta talk to the business owners that we're shooting around. Locations department, they gotta talk to all the people. But then Teamsters, they have like crazy hours. Like they're doing like 20-hour days when I'm doing like a 14-hour day, because they are there. Like I might be there early as shit, but I also get to base camp and those trucks are already there, and they weren't there last night. They got there a few hours before I did, right? Because they're setting up base camp, they're landing all the trucks, they're getting there, all the stuff is getting there way before any of the AD department is even there. So usually it's going to be Teamsters are in, but then before that, locations people got to be in, like then you have like parking PAs. Also, parking PAs are in the locations department. So it's just a lot of people are on set way before that crew call. Just keep that in mind. It's like you may want to give someone attitude or whatever, but like they might have been there 8 hours before you even started eating breakfast. You know what I mean? So the next one is special effects. Special effects, honestly, coolest people on set outside of stunts. Like honestly, special effects people are dealing with when there's rain, when there is like fire, rain, snow, when there is like crazy, maybe someone's getting cut, maybe there's just a lot of, all the fun stuff falls under special effects. Like honestly, another thing that's really cool is when you see like in a scene where someone might be in an attic and you see like cobwebs, special effects makes the fake cobwebs. When I first saw this happen, I was like blown away. I was like, that's how they make cobwebs? And they do it with like hot glue. They do it with this like crazy hot glue that it's so awesome when you see it being made. I was just blown away. So special effects, they have all the fun things: fire, water, rain. They're like doing all the cool, and then snow. When you get to see them making snow, love it. Love watching these people work. And I would say guys, because I haven't seen in all my years, I haven't seen any real, I say real like as there's no human form, but I haven't seen any women that work in special effects. Funny enough. I don't know why. And I remember I asked a few people and I was like, how many women are, in the, special effects department for local 52, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, like 2. And I was like, holy crap. So explosions as well, that falls under special effects. So, when you have some like crazy foam shooting out, making it look like the building is exploding, that's special effects. Love it. They have all the fun stuff. So other departments I do not have on this list. Greens, like I said, they're handling any plants, any like, the landscaping like I showed you before, like they're putting more plants in. Maybe we got to hide something. They have like this crazy greens special tarp that hides things that we can't move. Like a camo tarp covering thing, which I was like, we use that so many times in Atlanta. It was great. Greens department, our video assist. Video assist department is how you're watching basically what we're shooting. Like all the monitors that you see on set, that is a department in itself. So, yes, I'm definitely going to get to this chat. So if you guys, I'm coming to the end of like all the departments. So if you have any questions about any departments, please put them in the chat. We will definitely address them for sure. So video assist is gonna be your monitors and how people get to watch the scene happening. And then there is video. Now, it's kind of confusing, video assist and video, because our video people are the ones who are handling when you might see a phone on screen or when you see a TV with something on it. They're handling the things that you might see graphics-wise on screen. So, for example, if this were a movie right now, my computer screen that we're using, that I'm facing, maybe like cameras behind me facing this way, the computer screen would be video. Video assist would be what the camera is seeing. So it gets very, very kind of confusing. So good luck with that. And it's kind of funny because just the other day it was like, wait, does this fall under video or video assist? So if it's usually like a graphic that they're seeing on their phone, one missed call, and the phone is on and you have like a insert on the phone, that's going to be video. And if it's going to be like you're watching the scene, what we're shooting actually happen, then that is going to be video assist. Very, very confusing. Some people don't grasp it as fast, but like it took me a while. It took me a hot minute to like make sure I'm deciphering what department is handling what. And it's just super important to know, like if you're a producer, if you're a UPM, if you're an AD, to know what all the departments do to make sure you're not calling on the wrong person. And I've definitely made that mistake as a key PA where I will just be, I think this might be your department, and I'll totally be like, hey, I'm not sure if this falls under your department, but like, I need this, and they're like, no, that's so and so. I'm like, okay, great. Like, I definitely, and sometimes it just really, really gets confusing. So, all right, I'm gonna hand over to the chat. Oh my goodness, this is great. So, Jack, in Ireland we call hair, makeup, and costumes checks. Is that just an Irish thing, or you guys use it in America as well? I have never seen, I've never heard that addressed that way. So we call them either HMU, the lookers. Some people call them vanities, which is really fucked up if you think about it. But are you talking about like last looks, but we definitely call them hair, makeup, and wardrobe. We try to like call them by their department, not that makes sense. You call them checks though. That definitely makes sense. But like they don't like when we lump in them together. Like they hate that. So we try to like be respectful and try to address them hair, makeup, and wardrobe, because sometimes what people will say will be HMU, right? But then when you lump in wardrobe with that, it's not correct, because HMU is hair and makeup. And if you don't say hair, makeup, and wardrobe, or HMUW, which you don't usually say HMUW, because I will abbreviate in my own notes, but like I don't use that. So yeah, so we hair, makeup, and wardrobe, we try to make sure we're calling those departments by, the departments that they are. Silent. Hopefully none of these drivers are at that convoy in DC. Oh gosh. Auburn the Relentless. Yeah, I agree. Please be pleasant as possible on set. It's stressful enough. Scott, I could not agree more. This is a fact. I could not agree more. It is hard enough to work on set, and then just don't be an asshole. Good rule of thumb, don't be an asshole. Not to swear and all that, but like stop. Like we're all here to make something nice and have a good time doing it, so just stop it, That flame in the right window looks like a demon. Yo, let me look at this picture. Wait, let me see. I'm gonna look at where. What are you talking about? Where is this demon at? Oh, I feel like. Let me see. Is it like on the right side? Right window. I'm thinking. Oh, I see it. I definitely see it. I see it now. Yo, that's crazy. It's kind of creepy. I'm just saying. All right, so, yeah, at Jack, in the States, hair is separate from makeup, 100%, and costume and wardrobe is separate. I don't know if I agree or disagree with that, but it depends on what we're shooting, because some people like to be called costumers in the wardrobe department, so it depends. Not going to get into that, but it's not that cut and dry, I will say. Script supervisor to me is a necessity. Yes, to me, a skeleton crew is 7. 100%. I don't care if you're like bare bones, like you got to have a script supervisor. And some people are like, yeah, but I'm going to edit it myself. I'm like, you're definitely not going to remember all that stuff. And if you're directing and you're producing and then maybe you're even editing it, like there's literally no way for you to remember everything that happened on that set for like 2 or 3 days to go into post and then be like, oh yes, I totally remember all of that. There's like no possible way, because if you think about it, it's gonna be days after we wrap, weeks after, maybe months after we wrap by the time you may start your post-production, depending on your situation. So like, do not rely on your like, oh yes, I can totally remember all of these things. You're not. You're not gonna remember there. Auburn the Relentless, what are a entry-level department if your end goal is director? Set PA. Become a set PA. Start making your own short films on the side. Also, if you're trying to become a director, like if you're a set PA, you want to be in a position where you can see all the departments work, where you can see everyone kind of work. So I guess one of the departments I didn't cover was like your creative team, where that is your director. The director is like a department, but kind of not, because the director falls under like cast. And cast is your other department, like your performers, your stunt performers, background artists. They all are considered like, there's principal cast and there's background, which would be, a whole other department itself. So like I would be a set PA to learn how to be a director. To see just how everything works, and not solely just do that, because obviously you have to do your own work, like, messing with like art history and figuring out like the symbolisms and color temperatures and what certain colors mean to the human psyche. There's a lot of things that go into like being a director, what you're trying to put on the screen, and what you're trying to convey to your audience and how they are interpreting your vision, right? There's all of the things that go into directing. So start making your own stuff on the side. Start very, very small. Start practical. And I mentioned in this video I just posted on Wednesday about like 10 script writing secrets for the beginner filmmaker. It's like trying to like put you on the right path for, you know, writing certain things that you can actually shoot, you know. And a lot of people get caught up in these big masterpieces that they're trying to write, which honestly, here's the thing. If someone was like, oh no, like, you want to make sure you write your masterpiece, I'm like, yes, but like, if you're trying to get the experience for production and like making a movie, start small while you're writing your masterpiece. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying you can't do two things at once, right? Depending on how much energy and like you want to put into certain things, but you want to practice getting that experience before you start jumping into something big. So making sure that you start small, get on sets, watch how people work, like watch a director work, watch how an AD interacts with a director, watch how the director interacts with their DP, just kind of like seeing how it all happens, just kind of absorbing the situation around you. Let's see. One time I asked my makeup woman to do hair. My goodness, did I get an earful? Yes. This has happened to me, Scott. This has definitely happened to me where I thought I was talking to a makeup person and they were the hair person and vice versa. And they're like, you need to remember who is who and what department we're in. But it is stressful. Yeah, I see. Yeah, they are separate here as well. But if I were to call HMU and costumes between checks, I would call checks to set. Okay, Jack, I understand what you're saying, but we don't say checks. We definitely, that's terminology that we don't use. Also, I believe when you guys roll, we say, okay, here we go, let's roll sound or roll camera or let's roll whatever. You guys say turnover. If I'm not, I'm pretty sure. Is it like that in Ireland? I think you guys say turnover. So, like, please correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to know, because, like, it is definitely different terminology from country to country. That's for sure. Between takes. Yeah, okay. So, yes. So, here's the thing, Scott. I have been eaten alive by so many script supervisors. That's why I refuse to say scripty, because they take offense to it. A lot of people are like, do not call me a scripty. I'm offended by this. So, like, I am trying to make sure people don't say scripty because they're offended by it. They're like, it's so funny, like, oh, how about if we call you like grippy or electry or blah blah blah. I'm like, that's not how that word works, but whatever. Scripty kind of just rolls off the tongue very easily and they don't like it. So I always definitely put the effort in and I say script supervisor. They don't like it. They don't. Well, yes, Scripty will take great notes and she does continuity. Oh yes, continuity. I did not even mention continuity because a lot of people put the thing of continuity at the forefront, but that's not their main gig, to put it simply. It is part of their job. 100%. You want to make sure you're consistent. The actors, like, you know, making sure they pick up the coffee cup in the left hand every single time, every take. But also, like, there's so much more that is going to go into their job. And they do not like the fact that, like, some people are like, continuity. It's like, no, my script supervisor, like, you know, the way that script supervisors are treated sometimes is kind of messed up. And I think a lot of people like to dumb down their job and think like, oh, they only do this or they only do this. And it's like, they do a bunch of different things. So, just putting it out there, don't call them scripty. They don't like it. It's not very, very nice. They don't like it. I try to stick with whatever they like to be called. Like, I mean, here's the thing. It's like, assistant director, we say AD. Production assistant, we say PA, right? Assistant camera, we say AC. UPM, unit production. Like, we abbreviate everything. It's just the American way, unfortunately. Also, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time to say assistant director as opposed to AD. So, like, I understand that we want to say scripty because script supervisor is a mouthful. And we do abbreviate everything. So, it's kind of just like, give us a break. But they don't. So, I'm like, all right, fine. I will put the effort in because, you know. But it's kind of funny because I want to be like, oh, if I can't call you scripty, then you must call me the first assistant director and not the first AD. Just, I mean, if I wanted to be difficult, you know, if I wanted to be difficult, which I'm not trying to be difficult, but sometimes you got difficult people, you got to like throw back a little attitude sometimes and be like, okay, you're not going to walk all over me. Let's see. Yes, start small, one room, maybe two rooms, one location. Yes, very, very good advice, Jack. Yeah, okay, so thanks, Jag. You say turnover. Let's see. Scott, want a small set. Script soup will do continuity plus respect everyone. Yes. First Eddie says cameras up. We say stand by. First says turnover. We say rolling. Okay, great. That's really good to know. I love learning new things. I love the fact that like that's how it goes. Script soup shorter. Right. Saeed, that's right. It's like sometimes I think I definitely have used script soup. Sometimes I have used that. No one has taken offense to that yet. So like maybe we can start that trend. Maybe. Sometimes I sometimes I have said like script super, you know, sometimes I've done it, or I just use their first name to make my life easier. Delia09, if you are fairly new to production, what are some good things to talk about during breaks with the crew? So Delia, you were the one that suggested like networking. And I have a video coming out on networking. And your question was really, really great because I didn't really address the how to, right? How to kind of like, you know, I stress making connections and, you know, building relationships, but then it's like, how do I do this? Like the play-by-play is kind of hard, right? Starting those conversations with people. Now, I remember when I worked on New Amsterdam, I was the walkie PA, and every day I was stationed right near the director of photography. I was the main communication from the director of photography to the first AD. So whatever he needed, I relayed to my firsts on the set. And he was very quiet. He was like very like, let's do the job. I mean, he was like a funny guy with the people who were part of his like with his key grip, with his set dresser, and then like the gaffer that are always near him. So when he's around his folks, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, he's fine. But then, like, when it came to me, I'm a little bit more introverted and a little more, like, I fall back a little bit. I'm not trying to be in the way, but I'm trying to also do my job. But I'm also not trying to be chatty Cathy with the DP when he's trying to work, because the director of photography is going to be the one that works, I wouldn't say works the most, but they have the least amount of time away from set and the least amount of time to go and, like, just have a minute. You know, it's like they're always either like they might be setting up camera, they might be, you know, talking to the gaffer about lighting, they might be talking to the set dresser about like what has to move, maybe we need a practical light in there instead, set dressers, what do you have for this? Like they're always gonna, you know, kind of be working when I might have a down, like I'm waiting for the camera to turn around, I'm waiting for all these things, like I'm waiting, right? But I have a free moment to like take those phone calls I might need to take, or like maybe I adjust my one-liner or something. Like they don't have time for that. The DP doesn't have time, so I'm always like, you know, like I kind of was standing by, just, you know, and I always had a question in the back of my head. I always wanted to know how he started. I always was like, it was like burning in me. Delio09, I was like, I always wanted to know. I was like, I wonder how he first started out. I always am so curious how everyone got started. And that's a really good question to start with. It's like, hey, like, how did you get started in the business? And we actually had a moment of downtime. They were setting background. He didn't have to do anything. He was just waiting for background to be set and waiting for the actors to come to set. And he had a moment. He was like eating. We're in the same room. And I was like, hey, Andy, just like, how'd you get started? And then we started a whole conversation about how he was like he started out in the commercial world. He was a camera PA. He used to like drop drives off from like one post house to another office or whatever. And that's how like he got started out. And it's like usually a good question is like, how'd you get started? A lot of people like, they really do like sharing their story, especially if it's like a good one that they went through a struggle to get where they are today. You know, it's not as fun when you meet someone, you're like, hey, how'd you get started? You're like, oh, well, I went to film school and then my uncle gave me a job. Well, that's not a fun story. Do you know what I mean? That's not as interesting. Where it's like, you know, someone that like, I think he dropped out of like college, and then he moved to the city. It was like, so like, I always try and feel out the moment. It's like kind of like tapping into your intuition and your social skills, because you got to read the room. That's the main thing, is like reading the room and figuring out, and you guys know what I mean by read the room, right? People, you know what I'm talking about, like survey the scene, read the people around you, feel out what is appropriate at that time, right? If we are about to roll, that is not a good time to ask a question. It's usually when we're like waiting for actors to come to set, or we're waiting for something to arrive, or maybe like, and here's one thing I will say. Don't bother people on their lunch. And I think that is, like, you're like, well, lunch is like the only time where they might have free time, but like also they're not trying to mentor you during their lunch. Like, lunch, I would say, hands off, everybody. That's like everyone's time to just mentally like recoup and like recharge for the next half of the day. For example, if you are one of my set PAs, my trainees, or whatever, like, I think that if you were to approach me at lunch, I would definitely be polite, but I would definitely make a note and be like, hey, can you just save those questions for like after? Like, please don't bother me during lunch, because I'm trying to like just like, you know, shut down for a few minutes, because I only have a few, especially if I'm firsting a project. I always have like, I hide because the director's looking for me and the director of photography is looking for me and they want questions, and I'm like, does this need to be discussed at lunch? I don't think so. But sometimes I will want to get ahead and be like, hey, like, we may have something happening important after lunch, so I want to like talk about it right at that moment, or right before we break for lunch, because I believe everyone deserves a mental break, and sometimes the DP, the first AD, and the director do not get that. So like, just be cautious. So I think another thing that you could talk about is, if you're, the first thing is like making sure that you're asking them like how they got started, and like what is something that, a good question is, what is something that you wish you knew before you started, that you wish you knew someone told you before you got into this business? Because everyone always has like one, you know, and sometimes like a funny story, and they'll share something with you. It depends on how like awkward or not you are socially. And just be careful with talking too much. Know when you have to like, they have to get back to work. Don't force them in to be like, hey, I have to get back to this. Like, you know, invite another conversation for later. Like, hey, you know, like, I definitely want to hear more about that, but I gotta go. They're calling me to, you know, do X, Y, Z, you know? Scott, one big rule on time is don't even. Listen, Scott, we're gonna go to blows on this, because I don't think so. Please, and I will fight you in this chat. I will fight you, because here's the thing. Scott, you might have that mentality, but I do not. I tell all my PAs when I staff them, I'm like, I don't care if you want to be 5 minutes early, 15 minutes early. I will not expect you to be 15 minutes early. As long as you're on time, I don't care. You are here on time doing your job, great. But do not expect me to be early when you're not paying me. Because I'm sorry, like, as a PA, like someone who is not getting paid enough, like those 15 minutes, that's literally like, what is it, $4, like $3-4 that like you're wasting of mine that I could be getting. Like, don't expect me to be there early. Hard line for me on that. Like, and I tell all my trainees that, like, I don't know what your mentality is. Like, if you need to mentally prepare, you need a half an hour to be there early to figure things out. Okay, fine, that's you. But for a boss, or for this industry to be like, if you're 15 minutes early, you're late. No. And if you're on time, you're late. And then if you're late, you're fired. Like, no. If you're on time, you're late 15 minutes. You're like, no. 15 minutes early is on time, right? No, I do not believe in this. Please, I don't know how anyone else feels about this. Please express it in the chat. I am happy to argue this with anybody. 15 minutes? You want me there 15 minutes? Well, then make my call time 15 minutes earlier. Very simple. I'm not going to be there 15 minutes early if you're not paying me. I'm sorry, that is work abuse. No, like, I do not expect anyone to be there earlier than they need to. As long as everyone's walking in at that time, if they're at their truck, if they're at their car, if they're there on set at crew call, I don't care. You don't need to be there early. Why the hell do you need to be there early? Like, if you need to mentally prepare to be there early, fine. Do it. Do what you gotta do to mentally prepare yourself. But for an employer or a boss to expect you to be early, no. And if you are in indie, and I respect indie, because I came up that way in indie. If you are an indie, even more reason, because indies do way more hours and they get way more abuse and they get way less pay. So think about that. What you're requiring from that person for like the little pay that you're getting them, you want them to be early to an indie set. As long as people are on time, I don't care. Sorry. Hard pass. I'm sorry. Like, I've been through the ringer. I've worked on many different sets, and I will not budge on this. There's no way you can convince me about, like, I'm required to be there 15 minutes early. Now, here's the thing. For my own well-being, for my own, like, making sure I know what's going, especially if I'm an AD, and I am getting a higher rate, where if it's my day rate and I don't make any more money being there early or later or whatever, like if it's a flat rate, I'm there, yes, I'm gonna be there early, because it doesn't matter time, like it doesn't matter like when we're talking about like, you know, money wise, but also I'm kind of like, I kind of do want 15 more minutes of sleep whenever I can get it, because Lord knows we're about to do 20 hours and I'm only gonna get like 3 hours of sleep, so that extra 15 minutes could save my life, you know, just saying. So I'm just thinking about when I have to mentally prepare if it's a big day, and maybe the set location is way far, base camp is really far from set, and the holdings another place, like I will kind of like give myself an extra 10 minutes to kind of like get the lay of the land myself for my own like being in the know, but then like I will land at base camp at my call time when I'm ready to work with my walkie on, ready to go, you know. So okay, if you're starting out, here's the thing. When I was a base AD, the hours were, yeah, oh, dude, Jack, I understand the base camp AD hours. It is crazy. It is like you're there 3 o'clock in the morning because actors in at 4, crew calls at 6:30, 7 o'clock. Like, people are getting some crazy makeup done. You're like, why does it take 2 hours for this woman to get ready? Oh my God. So, yeah, Auburn, I've had a PA boot camp drill that into us, but when I got my first gig, I was there before grip and set up and damn near by myself. Exactly. Why are you there wasting your time? It doesn't make sense for them to be like, be 15 minutes early. Like, if the AD is not even there yet, if the producer for an indie thing is not there yet, if the locations rep is not, if the crew is not there, why the hell do you need to be there early? Honestly. And I tell people when I'm firsting, I tell people you do not need to be early to set. I tell all my PAs, location's not going to be open until this time. Do not be early. Like, because sometimes you have just people waiting around for things to get done. I'm like, you're wasting your time. I tell people all the time, do not be early. There's no need for you to be early. Take your time, get your coffee, take a friggin' stroll down the street, whatever you need to do. No. Just letting you know. Feel really strongly about this one, guys. Feel very, very strongly about this one. As long as you are on time, you're there, ready to work at your call time, that's all that matters. And I swear to God, like, and you have some like old school folks who are like gonna fight me on this, and I don't care. Old school folks are like, they're moving out, sorry, and people like me are moving up, and we're taking over the industry. People like you and me are moving up, and we can change that. Sorry, like, work abuse is not acceptable anymore. Sorry about that. I'm not gonna be there 15 minutes early if you're not paying me. Sorry. Sorry, I'm getting real snotty about it. I'm sorry, I'm getting real attitude and everything. So, one time I was late because of a crash on the freeway and sound, nothing can go forward. This is true. And here's the thing is that, like, when you have things happen, I mean, life. It's not like we can't control the world, folks. Yes, you are going to get into car accidents. Yes, you'll be stuck behind a car accident. You know what? Okay, Scott, respect for you. You are old school. That is you. Whatever you are trying to do to keep going, I respect you. Whatever. But if you are like, if there are things like shit happens, and if the first AD or the producer is going to be like, oh, this, I mean, I've definitely been on sets where it's like the cube truck that held everyone's equipment got into an accident, and then we started 3 hours late. The actor overslept, did not wake up to their alarm because they did an overnight, and then they had to be here at 8 a.m. and they overslept, which is like, man, stuff happens. Stuff happens. Literally nothing we can do about life because life happens. You know what I mean? Shit happens. That's all I'm going to say. I think I'm going to come to a close. If anyone has any other questions, comments, or concerns, I am happy to have them. I'm going to take a sip for a few seconds. And if anyone has any other questions, please feel free. I'll stay on for a few more seconds. But I just want to thank everyone who joined me for this live stream. I appreciate all you guys sticking with me from 1:15. Again, I'm sorry it was late. Like, technical difficulties with my little slideshow that I had up for you guys. Let's get a little glimpse. Yay! But I'm happy you joined me, and you all you guys were here from the beginning. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining my live stream. Yeah. Crew is definitely overworked and underpaid 100%. Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you, Scott, Auburn, Delia09. So if anyone has any further questions, I welcome you to email me at beyondfilmschool@gmail. Another reminder, next week I have no idea what I'm covering for my live stream. Love your ideas. I love. I will definitely make sure to kind of keep polling to get people's ideas. I do have, in 2 weeks, I have a bunch of my AD PA friends coming in. We're all going to talk about the AD department and starting out in film and where we all started out. That's coming in 2 weeks, not next Sunday, but the following Sunday. That is going to be another live stream that I'm going to have guests. Not going to have all these lovely bells and whistles because I have to figure out Zoom. And OBS is like the bane of my existence, trying to get the Zoom audio coming through OBS. It's so, God, I have to figure it out. It's so annoying. I have to figure it out. Oh, my God. But I have guests coming on in 2 weeks. I have also in 2 weeks, I think maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 6, 14, 20. Yeah, so in 2 weeks, also I have my resume workshop. Got a few spots left for my live resume workshop. It's going to be March 20th at 6. So March 20th is also going to be the live stream with my guests. I have a busy day March 20th. I will tell you. A busy day. And then also my next Set PA class. I'm filling up. I got like four or five spots left. It's going to happen in July. So I have my next Set PA training class happening in New York in person. July 9th and 10th. Lovely weekend you get to spend with me, learn from me, I get to train you, you get to know me, I get to know you, and hopefully I get you on a set and you're going to be the best damn PA and then go after your film dreams, because that is the goal of Beyond Film School. So thank you so much for joining me, guys. I loved all your questions. I loved the back and forth. Sorry, Scott, I got a little heated there for a second, but it's all in love. I thank you for the support. Also, I'm coming up on 10,000 subscribers and I'm very, very excited. Coming up on 10,000 subscribers. I'm almost there. So spread the love. Tell people to like subscribe to Beyond Film School, because I'm almost at 10,000 subs and I'm very, very proud of myself, because just January of 2021, I was at 7,000 just last year. So I've really gained so much, and I have you guys all to thank for sticking with Beyond Film School, for supporting Beyond Film School. I'm just like so happy that people are supporting what I do and supporting what the message that I'm spreading in the film industry. So thank you so much for joining me. That is it for now. I shall see you guys next time.